Hello, my name is Emma, and in today's video, we are going to teach you some things that can help your conversation. Today, I am going to teach you about interjections. Interjections are short words in English that show feelings. We use interjections a lot in everyday conversation, so they are very important to learn. So, in this video, I will teach you some common interjections that are often used by native speakers. The first interjection I wanted to talk about is this one. Oops. Oops means that we say this when we made a mistake or an accident happens. Oops, I spilt the milk. Oops, I dropped the cup. So these are just examples of how we might use oops. Oops, I forgot your birthday. So whenever we make a mistake or we do something by accident, we often say the word oops. Okay. Now, a similar interjection to oops is oh no. Oh no means there's a problem, there's a mistake, or maybe there is an error of some sort. I say oh no a lot because I make a lot of mistakes in my life. So this is a very common word for me. Oh no, I forgot your birthday. Oh no, I forgot to bring my umbrella and it's raining. Oh no, I left my papers at school. So those are just some examples of how we might use oh no. And notice the voice I use when I say these. You need to show the emotion using your voice. So there's a difference between oh no or oh no. Okay, notice the difference. We show the emotion with the voice we use. So we've covered oops, we've covered oh no. Here's another one I use a lot. Ew. Ew. What does ew mean? We use ew when we are disgusted by something. We think something is gross or very yucky. So, for example, imagine you're walking down the street and you step in dog poo. That's a situation where you might say, ew, I stepped in dog poo. Or maybe you try to eat some food, maybe some cheese, and it's old. You might say, ooh, this cheese is old. So ew is a very common interjection we use in conversation to show we are disgusted by something. Now let's learn some more interjections we use in our everyday English. All right, so let's look at some more interjections we use in conversation. Yuck is similar to ew. Yuck. So what does it mean when you say yuck? It rhymes with duck. That might help you remember the pronunciation. Yuck means something is disgusting. So earlier I said, ew, you stepped in poo. You could use yuck in this situation too. Yuck. The man stepped in poo. Or another situation might be, yuck, the man picked his nose. So we use this when we see something that we think is gross and quite disgusting. Here's another word that means the same thing as yuck, ew, gross. So gross, again, means the same as all these other words. It means disgusting. Here's a real-life example that happened a couple weeks ago. I said, gross, my brother farted. So if you don't know the word farted, look it up. It's an interesting word. Gross, my brother farted. Real-life example. You might notice that I have an exclamation mark here. So this, in English, is called an exclamation mark. We often use these with interjections. So, oops, I forgot to put an exclamation mark here. And oops, I forgot to put an exclamation mark here as well. So there you go. That's how you can use oops from earlier. Okay, here's another interjection. Yikes. Yikes means you are scared. Anytime I go on a roller coaster, As we go up, 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 right before we go down, I say, yikes. That's really scary. So yikes means you are scared. Sometimes when I have traveled, I have seen some very big spiders. And when I see a big spider, I say, yikes. That spider is huge. That spider is big. Yikes. So we use this when we are afraid. Now let's learn some other interjections. There are so many in English, but today I'm going to teach you some of the main ones. Okay, so what is the next interjection? The next one is, ah. So that means you're scared of something or you're afraid. Ah, there's a ghost. Ah, there's a big spider. If you ever watch the movie Home Alone, the boy says, ah, when he has some pain and he's surprised by it. So we use ah when we're scared or when there's a bad surprise. Now, a lot of these interjections have many different meanings, and it depends on how we use them. One way to make sure you're showing the meaning you mean to is with your voice. Okay, so you want to be sure that when you say, ah, it sounds like you're actually scared. Here's the next interjection. Ooh. Ooh means a good surprise. So here's an example. Ooh, I love your dress. Ooh, you look really good today. Ooh, that's a really nice photo. So this usually means a good surprise. It's very similar to the next interjection, which is probably the most common interjection that I'm teaching today. And the interjection is wow. This is one of my favorite words in English because I like what happens with your mouth when you say it. Wow. So wow is a good surprise. Wow, you look amazing today. Wow, I love your haircut. Wow, you did amazing on your English test. So we often use wow when we are impressed by something, when we are amazed by something, or when something is a good surprise. So here is the last interjection for today, and that is shh. So this is how we spell that, shh. And we often have this sound with our finger in front of our mouth. This means be quiet. Shh, be quiet. So this is something teachers like to say to their students a lot, or librarians might say to people in the library. So again, it means be quiet. Here's our example. Shh, I'm sleeping. Please be quiet. So again, interjections are very common in English. You may have interjections in your language, and they might be very different from English interjections. When I lived in China, I found that the Chinese interjections were totally different words than the English interjections. So I highly recommend learning interjections in English to improve your conversation skills. Wow, I feel like I said a lot of information today. So thank you so much for watching. I'd like to invite you to come check out our website at www.engvid.com. There you can actually find quizzes on this topic, and you can practice what you learned here today. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to ring the bell. I have new videos coming up very frequently, so it's a good idea to use those videos to learn different things like pronunciation, conversation, grammar, vocabulary, and many more topics. You can also check out my website at www.teacheremma.com, and there you can find more free resources on learning English. So thank you for watching, and until next time, take care.